Hello, thanks for watching the video. So we've got this Toyota Camry 3.0 or V6 engine, and we're leaking oil at the seals on the passenger side, and we're going to have to remove the timing belt, take the cover off, remove the timing belt, and replace those seals at the cam and the crankshaft. So to do that, we've taken the wheel off. We have taken a little skirt off here so you can see the harmonic balancer. That bolt is 159 foot-pounds, I believe. So if you've got an air wrench, mine's not powerful enough, so I'm going to have to use just a regular wrench to try to get that off. But I need something to hold that pulley, because once I start trying to loosen it, the whole pulley is going to turn. So we're going to take the belt off of the alternator and try to use that to hold that pulley in place while we turn the bolt off. So let's go ahead and get that belt off of the alternator. Before beginning, let's remove negative battery cable. Okay, got the pivot bolt loosened. Now I thought I'd have to take it off, but I'm not sure I'll have to even remove the alternator. I just need to remove the belt, I believe, at this point. So now I'm going to go down here to this pinch bolt, and we're going to loosen it. Once we loosen it, it is a 12 millimeter, and we will be able to start loosening the adjustment bolt, which is right above it. I'm going to use two hands to do this, but the adjustment bolt is right here. So once we get that pinch bolt loosened, we'll free up that adjustment bolt, and we'll start turning it to the left, and then our belt should start slackening up, and we'll be able to take it off soon. Yes, we're almost there. There we go. Got a slow turn, still pretty tight. There we go. Okay, so it's going to be so tight I won't be able to get that out. So what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and tighten it again. But it's not going to be so tight I can't get it back off. And we're just going to relax that belt. Okay, so I can get my extension out, as well as my belt, and let you see this from here. Yeah, so I'll be pushing that through. So I need to turn a little bit more. All right, there we go. Alright, so yeah, here's the hoop. There's the bottom part. Locked itself in there. Belt is no longer any good for anything. It was a spare belt anyway, so not a big deal. And it was an old belt. It still held up. Alright, so this wiring harness here, right here, a little support here. It's also got a couple grounds coming up in here. I've taken this bolt out. We're going to push this over here out of the way, put the bolt back in place so we don't lose it. All right, now we'll go ahead and start taking this mount out. Removing the motor mount, we now have our jack in place supporting the oil pan there with a piece of wood. Alright, remove the bolt here, remove this long bolt here. Washer, same with this one. Don't lose the washer. Okay, now just pull the mount away. Alright, next we'll remove these two 14 millimeter bolts. This goes to the alternator mount or pivot bolt, and then this is connected to this brace for the motor mount. right, lift this up. There should be a stud that kind of holds it in place. There we go. Okay, now this wiring harness, we need to try to move that out of the way as much as possible. Pull this out over here and up here. And what I'm going to try to do is just shove it out of the way. It's kind of separated from the cover. I'll probably grab bungee cords. Get this little brace off. There is a nut right here that comes off, and it will pull this away, but most importantly, yeah, this just lifts right out. But yeah, we got the wires that go down to the oil pump sensor, and they ride kind of right through here, so we want to put those back in place, but it'll help to lift up a little bit more as well. Okay, just pull it off from the end, and then it slides off the top, or at the alternator pinch bolt. Alright, so here's where we're at. So instead of starting to take the bolts out of the cover, the top cover, down at the bottom, the crankshaft cover, there is a bolt that connects both of them together, and I believe it has to come off first. So I'm going to go ahead and go down there, and we're going to have to take the steering belt off here. It's on the inside of the harmonic balancer. See that right there? So we'll have to remove that. All right, for the steering belt, see that top bolt with the big washer? I'm going to remove mine. It's going to be easier for me to adjust it, to loosen that belt. So I'm going to completely, I already loosened it, I'm going to remove it from the bracket. All right, see it removed. The bracket just fell there. You can still see the remnants where the washer was at, but and that's where it was in place. Okay, so we're going to tap that upward to loosen the belt. Downward would be to tighten it, and as you can see, you've got all this room here to make the adjustment. So yeah, that's the adjustment bolt. So let's go ahead and tap that up using a hammer and a little like a screwdriver, just something to tap it right on the end there. Okay, next I'm going to remove the harmonic balancer. I'm going to need a puller to get this off because they're always really tight. We'll try it. Hey, I got some movement. Oh, okay, great. Got it off without having to use a puller. Okay, as you can see, it only goes on one way. There's our lower cover, and we have access to the bolts. Much better. So we'll just remove these bolts, like right here, here. There's probably a couple more, but one in specific is going to be held on with the upper. I think it's right there, so you can see the upper cover, the number 2 cover maybe, and they are connected together. So we have to get the lower off first, and then we'll go back up and get the top cover off. And I am using a 10mm, and these bolts are 10mm, holding the cover on. First bolt, to take a look at all that oil. All right, one more cover bolt to to get off. I can't get to it. Just moving the power steering pump down. Trying to get a wrench on that. See it right there. Yeah. Awkward place. Go down a little bit more. All right, here are the 4 bolts. Look at all the oil on those. 3 of them especially. I wiped one of them off, but it's a lot of oil. And let's go ahead and see if we can get it off now. So yeah, 4 bolts. One of those was shared with the upper cover. Yeah, this one was shared. Look at the oil there. All right. Here's our 0 degrees. All right, now we go up top and we will get that oil running down there. Let's go up to the top and we will get the top cover off. And up here at the top, we just follow the bolts, take those off. Not sure how many there is. Got some leaking right there. So that what was dripping is actually coolant here from the hose. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts out. There's one right there near the firewall. I think that should be it. Remember, there's one that was shared down there with the number 1 cover. So let me grab a wrench and get this one off here. Okay, just trying to unscrew it with my hand. All right, I think that's going to be it. All the bolts same size. We've got the hose here, power steering hose, so we're going to have to kind of finagle it out of the way, but should be good. Okay, yeah, I'm going to use my other hand. Okay, just have to get it over that cam. All right, belt's looking pretty good. I think I'm going to try to reuse the belt. Actually, it looks like I'm not getting any leaking here. That's cool. So, hoping to reuse the belt. And made in Japan. And this was a Ace belt. I bought a kit. But I'm hoping to reuse the belt. The only thing I may not reuse, if I can help it, I may end up buying the kit because you get a lot cheaper than single parts. But the hydraulic tensioner, I may replace it, or I may have to reload it. We'll just see. Anyway, we're going to get this belt off, and then we will take a look down there at the crankshaft, see if we can figure out where the oil is coming from. That little hole right there on the sprocket. So when we turn the sprocket, it lines up with that little lobe, and then we go up the top here, and we're lined up here with that little hole to that little marking there. Both of those we should be at top dead center. So let's turn the crank and see if we're right on the markings. All right, so Okay, there we are lined up. See that right there? Let's go up here now to the sprockets. All right. So yeah, we're lined up here. And then the back one, which is going to be hard to see. We're lined up. See the white mark at the top there? So yeah, we should be at top dead center. All right, so I'm going to be probably reusing the belt, so I could go ahead and mark this belt by putting some white out, and I probably will put a line there, over here, and I'll probably be putting this belt on down here at the crank, so I could put a marking over here somewhere on the belt. One thing I want to say is if you're using the ASIN belts, they already have the marking on it. So these should be marked, but they could be worn off. So I may go ahead and remark them myself. Now the markings that are on them are not going to match up. Probably, I don't know how many rotations you'd have to take this to get those lines to, on the original lines to mark back up. But yeah, the ASIN belts will have those 3 marks. They'll have 1 for the cam, or 2 for the cams. Then they'll have 1 for the crank, and it's the 1 for the crank is going to be the little little dots that go across in a line. So it's very helpful. I'm not sure if any of the other belts that you're going to get, aftermarket belts, are going to have those lines. It's very important, or it's easy, I should say, for lining everything up. Something else I wanted to point out is if you remove the spark plugs, that crank is going to be so much easier to turn with the wrench. If it gets real frustrating, I'll probably remove some of them. It's really hard to remove these plugs back here under the plenum. I may or may not remove the number 1. The number 1 is the one that the book is going to tell you to remove, and put like a screwdriver or something in there, and you turn it until you get to the its highest position, and that's supposed to be top dead center at compression stroke. So I haven't decided whether I'm going to do that yet or not, but anyway, I just want to say that, yeah, if it's really hard to turn down here and you're not getting, if it's really difficult to turn, you're going to have to remove those plugs to make it easier, because it's just, it's too much compression in the engine there. So tip I wanted to tell you about. We take this belt guide off. All right, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but over here, and so we're at top dead center here, and over here there's a white tooth right there, where someone had marked it. I think it might have been factory marked. I don't know if you can see it very good, but it's right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mark my belt right there with the white out. Try to put it on right there. All right, before removing the belt, right below this idler pulley here, the top idler pulley, we're going to remove this support. This is 2 bolts and 2 nuts. So there's going to be studs that stay. 2 studs will stay in. They're 2 studs are part of the. I think I got them all already. Let's see. Yeah, I got mine loosened already. Yeah, these two studs are in the block. Okay, so let me get this nut off. Now we don't have a whole lot of room here. Let's hope we don't have to jack it up to get these bolts to pass. Okay, I'll get right back. So this one clears right up here, so that's cool. The other one is hitting, but I think if I take it out with the, see, the other one is going to be hitting here. So if I take it out, all right, how are we going to do this? There we go. Okay, just enough room to get it out. So here's the configuration of the belt. At the crankshaft, we're going around the water pump pulley, the inside, and the inside of the number one idler pulley. Okay, then it spreads out, coming around the upper outer sprocket. Idler pulley is right in the middle. Okay, it goes underneath the idler pulley and then back over the sprocket at the crank at the firewall. Now we're going to remove the hydraulic tensioner right down there. I'll show it to you a little bit closer. But at this point, we want to make sure that we're at top dead center again and make our belt marks on our belt, because once we get it loosened and start taking the belt off, then there's no way to really get back easy anyway, that is. So yeah, we've got our mark on our belt, so we'll know how to put it back on if we're using the same belt, and I am using the same belt probably. And then again down here, making sure that's top dead center. Let's go ahead and take this little sprocket or belt guide thing off. Now it's kind of cupped, and the cup part goes outward, only goes on one way. And then there's that mark that I made on my belt. Okay, yeah, there's a mark right here that was already there on that sprocket, a little white mark. It was kind of scratched up, so look for one that's kind of has some scratches on it or markings. It may be painted from the factory. I believe this one was, because there was a white mark, and I think the factory probably did that. Okay, so hydraulic tensioner. I got my wrench on one of the bolts there. They're 12 millimeters. Kind of hard to get to. May have to move this pulley here out of the way, because one of them is right behind that. See it right there, and that's recessed. I'm going to use a socket on that one up there. I can't really get a socket on here because there's too much in the way there. So I'm going to go up above and try to break that loose, and then we'll take that off. Okay, got that loosened. I go for the other one. Yeah, I probably don't want to take one out all the way out. Just kind of take a little bit off, loosen a little bit from one, and then loosen a little bit of the other one. You kind of do it that way, I think would be the best way to do it. Okay, here we are. All right, here's the second bolt. Man, that thing's tighter. All right, finally. And here's what it's going to look like when you put it back in place. You're going to have the pin pushing against the bottom idler pulley, or number one idler pulley, and it's going to be putting pressure on the timing belt up above there. Tensioner coming out. Bolt is still in. We have a short bolt at the top And then we have a long bolt at the bottom. Don't see any leaking. I hope to reuse this, so I'll have to push the pin in, but I'll test it first and see if it's still good. Okay, so belt is now loose. Take it off of the sprocket. This one may move. I think this is a slave. The upper here. Yeah, I don't think it moved. Sometimes it'll spring. Just get it off the best way you can. I don't think this has the lines, the marks anymore. It has my marks, but maybe this wasn't. I don't know if this was a to Mitsubishi, made in Japan. So yeah, I think it was an ace, and it just doesn't have those lines anymore. You can see the condition of it. It's still very good. So I should get about another 50,000 miles out of the belt. Next, I'm going to be taking these sprockets off, and then this number 3 cover, the metal cover, so that we can get to the seals. So I'm using a sprocket holder and an 18mm socket. This is a 1/2-inch wrench, so I'm going to try to use 2 hands to do this. Just hold the sprocket with one hand, and then my right hand, try to loosen it. If not, I'll lock this in. If I can't do that, I'll lock it in like under here somewhere, the bar, and then I'll have 2 hands freed up if I need to. All right, now we have this metal cover we need to remove. It's held on by a bunch of number 10mm bolts, and we'll get those off, pull this away, and we should be able to get at our seals. Got all the bolts out of the cover, but we have to take the idler pulley off as well. 14mm bolt through the center of it. See our seals now. Going to take a little while. This one's very hard to get to. Can't really make any I don't have a lot of room to move my, I'm using a dull utility knife. I like the only place I can put it. I can't really make any movement down here. So anyway, that's kind of how it works. I'll continue to work on that. All right, so I think we got the second one out. Yeah. Yeah, so what I did was I took this utility knife. I've used this before. It works pretty good. Now you don't want it to be really sharp. As you can see, it's not that sharp. But it's, see how it's tapered? What I do is I went in there like this, and then I would pull it like this. There's the upper one right there. Or there's the front one right. There's the front one right there. Pretty wet everywhere on this one. Next, we're going to remove the sprocket at the crankshaft so we can get to the seal. All right, we have to remove this little 10mm bolt tab here. Just drops down like that. So we can leave it in place. Probably leave the bolt in place. Right now, just to remove it here. Okay, and there's our seal. So we will we'll remove that now. These are usually not as tight as, there we go, right out. Yeah, these are usually not as tight as the cams. All right, here's the old one we pulled out. And here is, I don't see any signs of why it may be leaking, but we're going to go with the Toyota this time around. The ones that I used for the cams and the crank last time were from a kit. This time we're going with Toyota. So here's the Toyota crank. And like I said, not a whole lot of difference really that I can see by eye. So anyway, let's go ahead and lube this up. We're going to lube it up with some oil on the inside here and then on the outside as well. And I've used a paper towel to go in here and clean inside the bore. We're going to put our new seal. So everything's looking good in there. All right. Okay, it's a little higher right here. I'm going to get something and tap that. Seat it like the other part of the seal. Okay, I can't get this on camera, but see how this is raised up here. What I'm going to be doing is taking a PVC pipe and putting it like that and just tapping up here till it's flush all the way around. Alright, that worked out pretty well for me. I do not want to feel any kind of lip on this seal. I want it to be completely flush. Don't want to drive it in any deeper than it. Oh well, I don't want to drive it in any more than just being level with this metal right here. Yeah, I don't feel like any lip, so I'm going with that. I actually feel pretty good about this seal. The last one I put in went in just what I thought was a little bit too easy. This one seems like it's more secure. All right, next we're going to go back up to the cam. Make sure that the bore is clean inside. Here's the Toyota number for the cam, 90311. Toyota number for the crankshaft seal. Notice the thickness of the cam seal on the Toyota versus just an old, I'm not sure the name of that, but it's a pretty typical cam seal. Toyota is quite a bit larger. There's a little indentation. The Toyota's on the right, if I didn't say that. It's kind of the brown one. The black one is the aftermarket, just really inexpensive seal that you can just about get anywhere. So yeah, there is a difference in the width anyway. Okay, got our seal lubed on the outside and on the inside. Here's our back seal in place. Harder to get to, obviously, than the front. What I did was just turned it till it got on the shaft and pushed it using both thumbs. Tried to get it evenly in there. Of course, it was still sticking out a little bit, so I used this right here. Low profile. Was able to get in there with the hammer. There's not a whole lot of room, as you see. Kind of hitting the power steering hose here. Also used a socket, just held my thumb against the lip of the seal and then tapped this in with my hammer. I mean, I was just tapping just about like this right here, so not much at all, not a whole lot of swing to it. Anyway, it's in. I think it's going to be okay. Let's move on. With our new cam seals in place, we're putting the cover, the number 3 cover back on. It's the metal plate. Clean that up real good. We greased it. We'll be putting our idler pulley in right here, and then we'll be putting the 6 bolts that hold the cover in place. Now putting the camshaft sprockets back in place. The upper one here goes on. Okay, you got this flange part. The back against the number 3 cover, and it only goes on one way, so let's line it up and then follow it up with the bolt. We're going to tighten these down to 92 foot-pounds. Next we're going to put the number 2 idler pulley in position. You're going right there. Idler pulley number 2, idler pulley, torque to 32 foot-pounds. Now we make sure our sprockets are aligned, the backing plate. Same on this one over here. All right, here's our crank sprocket. We're going to make sure we're lined again, and we are. Now just looking at my belt, we're going to put the belt on. We're going with the lines. This was aligned for this sprocket. Over here was aligned for the rear sprocket. And then down here was the crank. We're going to put it on at the crank first. And the sprockets last. There's our belt lined up. Right here. Okay, I went ahead and put this back in place. It'll kind of, belt's not supposed to be touching that, but if it's still loose, it'll kind of support it until it tightens up. Also, I put a little bitty clip here to kind of hold it and keep it from falling down. I'll remove that later. I don't know if you can see that very good, but here's what it is really. Just kind of tucked it in there. Okay, now we're going to go up top. So we'll be bringing this over here on the inside of the number 1 idler pulley. And then over here we'll go around the water pump pulley. All right, so lined up again here on the upper sprocket, front sprocket. We've got the clip in place. Haven't got it around the idler pulley. It's too tight to really get under there. And then on the rear here, we're lined up again. And we've got a clip in place. Down at the crank. All right. Still loose. We haven't installed our tensioner yet. And we're still good over here. Where we want to be at. So I'm going to rotate this sprocket to get this underneath. Then I'll turn it back. All right, so to get it underneath the idler, I'm going to rotate it about a tooth here at the front sprocket. We're going to go counterclockwise, about a tooth, so that we can slip that on there. There we go. All right, now we'll just bring it back. Okay, right there. All right, we're pretty tight now. I mean, we're not tight really, but we got to put our tensioner in place now. In my case, I'm going to have to reload it. Yeah, right there's where I want to be at. here's my tensioner, about 50,000 miles, so it should be good for another 50, 60,000 miles, or even longer. I think you're supposed to replace these about every 100,000 miles. So I'm going to press this since it's still really good, and I'm going to have to find myself a pen of some type. Once I do that, of course, I'm going to use a vise to do this, so let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so yeah, about right there. I don't want it in the way when we start mounting it. It'll push it up when we do start mounting it. So I'm loosening the vise now. It's going to lock it in once that pin tries to go back to its position. And so there we are. So when I get ready to tighten the belt, I'll just pull this. Now this may be very hard to pull, so I'll probably use some pliers. The way this is set up with the new one is there's a ring here, so you can just put your finger in there and you can really get a good grip on it, and then you can just pull it out. And you want to pull it fast. If you don't pull it fast, what's going to happen is it's going to stop right here, and then it's going to probably start bending. It's going to be even harder, so yeah, just pull really fast. Here's a look at that idler pulley. And once this is pushed up, tightens up against the belt, as you see there. This is not aligned with the holes yet, but that is the tensioner. So I have to put 2 bolts in, and I have to line all that up. But it's gonna, that's pretty close to being lined up right there. But once that pin is pulled, then it will, as you can see, put tension on that idler and keep the belt tight. The problem I was having is I had the belt on, and I thought was going to put the tensioner on last. All right, with the belt in place, that tensioner would not line up. The bolts would not line up, no matter how far I pushed this number 2 up. It was hitting against the belt, and I couldn't get that tensioner in. There's 2 bolts, a short one and a long bolt. So what I had to do was take the belt off down here, halfway anyway. So we still have our mark right there, but we're off, as you see here. Okay, so I have put the tensioner in place now, just hand tight. I have not torqued the bolts down. And there's the tensioner right there. You can see the pin. So what I'm going to do at this point is just by hand, I'm going to try to put the belt on the lower tensioner. I may need 2 hands to do this, but that's my plan. I may even pull this out a little bit. So let me see how that's going to work, and I'll get right back with you. I think with 2 hands I can get it on there. All right, 2 hands, I was able to get it on there, so we are on. Let's check our marks one more time. Now we haven't even released the tensioner yet. See, there's our pin still engaged, and I have not tightened those bolts all the way down. Yeah, let's check the lines we got. Okay, sprocket good. Sprocket over here is good as well. All right, there's our mark right here. That's looking good. Top dead center there. Okay, so we should be good. So now with the belt on, I'm just going to tighten the 2 tensioner bolts. So yeah, just put them in there kind of halfway with my hand, because if I put them in there too tight, I wasn't going to probably get that belt on. Tensioner is now in place. Here's one bolt. The other one is right there. 20 foot-pounds, we still have the pin in place. Belt is pretty tight already without pulling the pin yet. And we've got some clips here, or clamps, on our sprocket. So we're going to go ahead and pull that. So we have a vice grip on our pin. I'm going to go underneath. The frame is right here, so can't really do much here. Now that the timing belt tensioner is in place, what I've done is tighten that back down. We put our belt guide back in place. Here we are coming around at 2 revolutions. Stop like right there, I guess. Alright, they're pretty close to being lined up. From what I can tell, the sprockets anyway. See the white marks there in the back? Here's the front. Alright, so yeah, here we are. There's our dimple right there. And there is the lobe on the oil pump cover. So that's lined up at top dead center, so we should be in good shape. Now, if you wanted to just speed things up, you could, before turning it twice, you could put your number 1 cover on, which is what I'm going to do now at that point, and then rotate it twice, and it should line up with the this marking here on the harmonic balancer, a little cutout, should line up with the 0 degree on the number 1 cover. I'm going to be putting the lower cover on. Just remember that there is a bolt top of number 1 that's going to be shared with number 2, the upper cover. So yeah, you can see the upper cover is going to be underneath. So just keep that in mind. So the cover is on with 3 of the bolts. Remember, we've got the upper one to put on first. Got a little wear here. The reason I know that is because the cover's wearing. Did a little bit of JB weld there. It actually went all the way through. So if you got that going on, you may want to, probably a real good idea to replace your harmonic balancer. I'm going to keep this in check. But I'm going to go ahead and probably finish the repair here today, since it's a personal vehicle. We're going to put this on next. Harmonic balancer is in place. Now we're just going to put the bolt back in. I think at this point we're going to try to start the car for the first time before continuing putting other parts on. So we'll go ahead and put the battery cable back on the negative. Alright, started right up. Checking that harmonic balancer. Yeah, because it looked, remember it was kind of worn. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it off. Alright, now we're going to put the brace, engine control brace, I think it's called, this right here. 2 bolts, and then we have the 2 studs. Already got the nuts off, so we'll slide this on. There we go. Let's put the upper timing cover on. So just remember, when you put the top cover on, you're going to have to tuck that part that goes right under the, yeah, right there. It's kind of hard to see, but you're going to have to tuck it under the number 1 timing belt. So now let's put this motor mount bracket in place. Just the stud there. Make sure you get it on the right side so that the bolts will run through. Okay. So putting this mount in place, we've got the long bolts that go right here. They're the same size. Got the washers, don't lose the washers. We've got this part, and then we've got right over here. Okay, to get to this, you're going to have the harness pushed down underneath here, and you got to put that back in place. It's held on where we lifted it up earlier, and I'll need to probably undo my rope here, but yeah, it's held in these with these clips on the number 3 cover, the metal cover behind the sprockets. Alright, so yeah, tuck this underneath with the bolt on our mount. We've got the 2 ground over here. We're going to go, yeah, just like that. And put our bolt in place. Got a little lip that goes in the hole there. The two long bolts here will be torqued at 47 foot-pounds. We got a brace here that goes to the alternator. We're not going to put that on right now. We're going to go down and put the belts on our power steering belt and the alternator belt. All right, here we are now putting the power steering belt back on. It is the inside pulley of the harmonic balancer. What I've had to do is, see this right here, a bolt goes right in here. That's part of the power steering pump right here, and you push that up to make it smaller, the space smaller between pulley to put your belt on. You push it down to meet right here on the top of that, and that will be the farthest away distance between pulleys for tightening, I guess. Okay, so I've had it down right here to right the top of this right here to get to bolts on the tensioner, especially that top bolt. See, I've had to push this down so that I could get to the bolt there, and this is not free moving. I've had to use a crowbar to push in between and to pry it up there. When I say pry, I mean just really move it. It's not that tight that I'm actually going to bend something. So that's where I'm at now. I've got it on, as you see, and what I'm going to do is put this bolt, which is the bracket, that's going to go right in here, and then when I get the position that I want for my belt, I'll put this inside and bolt it in right up here. All right, so just kind of put this in, put the bolt in with my hand, and then when I find the position that I want, I'll line it up here. I can see there, and then I will put this bolt in place and tighten that. Once I tighten that bolt, then I'll come back and tighten this bottom bolt here, and that should lock our belt in to the proper position. As you can see here, it's too loose right now, so I'll be making some more movement with this right here. I'll be having to probably tap that down some now that I've got the belt on to tighten it. Can't really do it from above because the timing cover is on. Oh yeah, we're getting nice and tight. That's just about where I want it, really. A little bit more maybe. Alright, so yeah, what I'll do now is put my bolt in place. Grab my wrench. Now let's go with the bottom one here. And tighten that a little bit. All right. So that's our belt. Here we are now, here we are back again, going to tighten at 159 foot-pounds. So we going clockwise, we'll need to hold the balancer. So we've got our belt again. This time we've tucked it, doubled it on this side of the balancer. So it's actually pretty taut now and it's tucked underneath. Like at the top, got it wrapped around there. Got my extension tucked in. The other end of the extension is right there. Hopefully that'll be secure. All right, so yeah, that's kind of how it's looking. And let's go ahead and see if we can get it to 159 foot-pounds. All right, there we go. Okay, so now what I did was I set up and turned it slightly counterclockwise, the balancer that is, and was able to pull my extension out as well as the belt that we used. Belt is still pretty good shape. It's not to be used for driving, but as far as using again for something like this, yeah, it's still, there's no tears in it. Now we can put our alternator or drive belt, whatever you want to call it, on. Goes around outside of the harmonic balancer. All right. So what I'll do now is the adjustment bolt here. I will be turning that to the right to tighten the belt up. And before tightening the belt anymore, we're going to go ahead and put this little bracket here. I remember we had the pinch bolt out for this. It just slips in there and then it goes over the stud there. Put the nut on the stud. Alright, then we'll tighten that, and then finally right here. Alright, now we can focus on getting that belt, alternator belt tightened. Alright, adjusted the belt to where I want it, and now I'm going to go down here at the pinch bolt, tighten that to lock in the adjustment bolt.